Welcome. We want to get started on time. It's now 3 minutes after 10. This is really fun for Scott and I, and we're really glad that you're all here. I didn't play golf yesterday, so I have no bad stories to tell about that. Did you play golf?
I did.
Attaboy.
Badly.
Yeah. Who starts? Me?
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're here. So Scott and I agreed that I would do the opening remarks for the AGM this year. And I'm getting on in age, and I didn't want to stay up till late at night writing a speech and going through all the nuances of wordsmithing and make sure I got all the right messages across. But I wanted to tell you, how Highstreet was doing in the past year and some of the things we've embarked on. And I had a whole bunch of things that I wanted to say, but I was just too lazy to write it. So I did what any wannabe millennial would do. I turned to ChatGPT. And I got to tell you, it did an excellent job, a much better job than I would have done, which is both, well, that's easy to understand, but it's both really cool and really scary. And with a little simple question to ChatGPT this morning, it gave me this. Ladies and gentlemen, shareholders and esteemed guests, welcome to the annual general meeting of Highstreet, where we gather today to celebrate the remarkable achievements of our incredible team. It's with great pride and enthusiasm that I stand before you, reflecting on the challenges that we faced and the triumphs that we achieved together in this past year. Not bad, eh? The journey of Highstreet has been defined by innovation, resilience, and unwavering commitment to excellence. In our pursuit of progress, we continually seek out groundbreaking solutions to revolutionize the way we operate and deliver value to our customers. I didn't actually pre-read this, actually. And this year, we truly have a remarkable story to share. We embarked on a monumental endeavor and an ambitious project that demanded, I don't know how it knew this, nothing short of extraordinary dedication and resourcefulness. We partnered with Elevate Construction, based out of Phoenix, Jason and Kate over here, to reimagine the way we schedule and execute construction. And we'll get into that quite a bit more today. This collaboration was a game changer, propelling us forward in the face of numerous challenges. Elevate Construction brought forth a whole new approach, one that has inspired us to think differently and push the boundaries of what was once thought possible. With their guidance and expertise, we implemented cutting-edge techniques that streamlined our construction process, ensuring efficiency, precision, cost-effectiveness like never before. Not bad, eh?
Not bad.
Our entire team worked tirelessly to adapt. This transformative way of working and their unwavering commitment has been nothing short of remarkable. Through this partnership, we have witnessed firsthand how innovation can empower us to overcome even the most complex hurdles. We have embraced technology, explored new horizons, leveraged Elevate Construction's expertise to improve our scheduling, enhance collaboration, and ultimately deliver. This is pretty good, isn't it, Jason?
It's a mouthful. That's a lot. That's more than I would normally say.
But beyond the tangible results, this collaboration symbolizes the spirit of Highstreet. It embodies our relentless pursuit of excellence, our willingness to challenge convention, and our deep-rooted belief in the power of collaboration. I almost got a tear. We are not content with resting on our laurels. Instead, we continuously seek out opportunities to disrupt, innovate, and to create a brighter future of Highstreet for all those we serve. Today, as we gather to reflect upon our accomplishments, let us not forget the incredible individuals who made it all possible, the Highstreet team.
That must be it. Is it over yet?
Just shut up. Their resilience, creativity, and unwavering commitment have been driving force behind. We got to listen to you the rest of the day.
Oh my God.
They have turned obstacles into opportunities, embraced change with open arms, and surpassed our wildest expectations. Thank you, Highstreet team. In conclusion, this isn't in conclusion, but in the start of the rest of the AGM, I want to express my deepest gratitude. We want to express our deepest gratitude. All of us want to express our deepest gratitude to the Highstreet team, Highstreet family. Your dedication, expertise, unwavering support propelled us to new heights. Together we have reshaped the landscape of construction, defying conventional norms and setting a new standard for excellence. Our story is one of triumph. Thank you for all joining us. today, and let us continue the journey with boundless enthusiasm. Unrelenting ambition, unwavering commitment to excellence. Here's to the incredible accomplishment at Highstreet and the limitless potential that lies ahead. Thank you. I have to give credit to my learned colleagues over here for putting me onto this at breakfast this morning.
Well, that was something. That did sound a bit like a typical bullshit AGM speech. So
What?
that was a lot of. It's like ChatGPT just has access to a thesaurus and a lot of big words. So it's good.
I think
Anyway.
it was great. What do you guys think?
Sounded like standard. Anyway, out of a computer, but we'll get to the heartfelt stuff soon. So now I have to do the formal stuff now. So we'll get the formal stuff out of the way. Show you the quick outline. We're almost on time. So we'll start with the boring stuff, and then we'll get into some better stuff. So not that Don's is boring. It's a good thing there's artificial intelligence. He did say he's getting a bit older, so this is good. Okay, on to the formal part. I've got a script I'll read off. I'll sound just as boring as that ChatGPT thing. Here we go. So first, as chair, I will call the meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, the annual general meeting of Highstreet Real Estate Opportunities Trust will now come to order. My name is Scott Butler, trustee of the trust, and I will act as chairman of the meeting. For the sake of expediency, we have prearranged with certain investors to move and second the required motions. Investor participation is encouraged during the question period later this morning after the formal meeting and presentation. The notice calling this meeting was sent to all unit holders in accordance with the Declaration of Trust. I will dispense with calling for a reading of the notice of meeting and direct that a copy of the notice be kept with the records of the meeting. That's great stuff. I confirm there is a quorum present in accordance with the Declaration of Trust. Notice having been duly given and a quorum being present, I declare this meeting to be duly constituted for the transaction of business. Okay, the transaction of business. We have a couple things to do. Present the financials, appoint the trustees, and appoint the accounting advisors, and then we'll terminate. So here's the presentation of financials. This is riveting for a handful and for 95% rather meaningless, but basically Don will get into this in a little bit, but the REIT is just a small part of the bigger entity, which is Owners LP. So we created the REIT back in 2017, which is the Highstreet Real Estate Opportunities Trust, and that was actually the brainchild of Peter Lacey, who's here. So Peter told us at one point that we should think about doing a private mutual fund trust, and what is that? No idea what that is, and so we looked into it and then asked him again, why should we do this? And he explained why, and basically it allowed us, the primary benefit for us at the time was reusing capital and then allowing investors to invest in tax-deferred options, so RSP and TFSA. Over time, we actually realized that that wasn't the primary entity. The primary entity was something called Developments LP, because the money that came in through the REIT would just get invested in Developments LP and then spread out to all the entities. So the money that you do invest in the REIT, and the reason for this formal part of the AGM, all just goes into Owners LP, and the unit price matches. So think about what you're investing in is actually the Owners LP. The REIT's just a vehicle to get your RSP and tax-deferred money in. So that's the bigger balance sheet. We're up to 171 million investment in partnerships, a bunch of cash, and a decent overall number there. The REIT income statement, again, this is a subset of the bigger Owners LP. And so if you look at the 9 million compared to 20 million, that indicates the amount of ownership in Owners LP that the REIT has is 9 million of the 20 million in earnings. So if I'm doing that math correctly, that's about 45% of the total. Okay, that was the presentation of financials. I could ask if there's any questions. You guys have any questions on that? Okay, good. We'll carry on. The appointment of trustees, so we'll do that. Actually, I should read the script again. Hold on. Here we are. The next item of business is to proceed with the nomination and election of trustees. The current trustees, being myself, Don Bell, and Kevin White, have agreed to stand for re-election and be nominated for the ensuing year. Since the number of nominees is the same as the number of vacancies to be filled, I now ask for someone to move the resolution that the persons nominated for election as trustees be elected as trustees of the trust to hold office until the next annual general meeting. Who will move the motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Who will second the motion?
I second the motion.
Very good. Thanks, Neil. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Very good. All in favor of this resolution, please raise your hand. Looks like a lot. Any against? Nobody against? Very good. I declare this resolution duly carried. We'll talk about the board of the owners LP in a second. So this is the board of the RIOT. That's the reason it's smaller. Whoops, I went too far. Okay, the appointment of accounting advisors is next. Next item of business relates to the appointment of the accounting advisors of the trust. I now ask for someone to move a resolution that MNP LLP be appointed as the accounting advisors of the trust. Who will move the motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Hannah. Who will second the motion?
I second the motion.
All right, thanks, Neil. You get to do two. That's great. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Very good. All in favor of this resolution, please raise your hand. It's a lot of hands. Thank you. Any against? Derek, you lucked out. I declare this resolution duly carried. Okay, that concludes the agenda for the meeting, and the meeting, therefore, is terminated. Okay. Yeah, there we go. On to the good stuff. Okay, so welcome. Dawn already kind of covered the basics of that welcome, but yeah, we really appreciate everybody being here. I mean, it's awesome to bring everybody together. This is a great opportunity to meet a lot of Highstreet employees as well. So if you look to your left, right, forward, back, you're liable to find somebody from Highstreet. I think we have about 40-ish employees here today. So we really encourage everybody to interact with everybody. So we've got people from all over the place, from Victoria and Calgary and Sundre, and I'm sure I'm going to miss a whole bunch of cities, Kamloops and Penticton, and so people have come from all over to be here for our little Highstreet Real Estate Festival. And our team does an awesome job every year of putting this on, and I'd like to thank, so first of all, I know all of you coming in today, the greeting, the swag, everything set up, the draw at the back there. This is all Janelle and Alyssa and the rest of the team putting it together, so thank you very much. And the day has only begun. It's going to be awesome. We have lunch at noon. We get on the bus. We'll do a little tour. We'll be on the West Side Road looking at the site out there. And then we'll go to Mount Boucherie Vineyard. So we hope you can join us for the whole day. I know some people have flights at 5 or 6 o'clock. They're liable to be late. If you want to get on the bus and check if the flights are late while you're out there, you can always take off on the tour at some point. We'll be leaving West Side Road at about 2:40. So if you wanted to head to the airport, then that would be a good time, and skip the winery if you wanted to do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I want to thank Jan for being here again to video, and point out that he will be, if this random guy comes up to you with a camera and says he wants to ask questions, it's all legit. Don't worry. He's here to produce our video that we normally do every year and does a fantastic job. So please
Make sure you speak nicely of us.
Yeah. You can say whatever you want. He'll edit it anyway. So it's all good. Yeah. Okay. My dad's here as well. I'm not sure where he is. Put your hand up. There he is. Okay, very good. Thank you, my dad. Yep. We thank my dad for being here, and and for me being here. I got obviously got my work ethic and determination from my dad, so thank you. Thanks for being here. And I see my beautiful and smart and supportive wife, Melissa, came in at the back. She's in the green jacket back there, so yes, thank you. I couldn't do what I do here without Melissa behind me and helping me make everything happen, and she supports that and is an integral part of the team that you don't see and allows me to succeed at work. So thank you, honey. Awesome. Okay, now I get to introduce Dawn. And for those of you who read the letter, I'm going to pull the line out of that again. There was a great line that Warren Buffett wrote about his partner, Charlie, in his annual letter. And he said, find a very smart, high-grade partner, preferably slightly older than you. I missed that part. And then listen very carefully to what he says. So, so I do have a hard time listening, so that's true. But I do have to say, like Don, I did pick a wonderful partner in business. He's been awesome since we met at WestJet back in 1999, and when we first went out to venture, Melissa and I, Don said he'd back whatever we wanted to do, and it's been a wonderful partnership ever since, and very supportive, great mentor, learned a ton. You know, I don't even know what I would think if it wasn't for Don's influence now, and it really has led to everything that's here today. So thank you, Don. Over to you.
That'll be probably all the niceties you get from Scott today about me. It has been fun, though. It's as I said in the opening remarks, it's really fun for us, and I know you all have fun when you come here. When we started this and started raising money from friends, I got basically most of my friends and a lot of my family involved, and said to Scott, we better not screw this up because I won't have any friends. And that was back in 2005. We've never had an argument, which doesn't really happen in partnerships, and it's a testament to, I think, a number of things, but it's personality, and we just always kind of see the positive and see the right path forward, and it always leads to a resolution without having any chaos or a dynamic that's hard to live with. So that's kind of neat.
Plus, Don knows that arguing with me is kind of pointless because he's a really smart guy, and I know that if he just goes away and thinks about it, he'll realize that I'm right. So.
The irony with that statement is that I hate to admit it, but it's actually true. And usually, sometimes I have to smack him upside the head and say, you're wrong on this, and he does agree with me but it doesn't happen very often. He is a very bright guy.
I stole that line from Charlie.
He does like the Charlie Warren thing. I guess I'm the Charlie, but I've got nothing more to say about that. I do have to thank my wife as well. She is, for those that know Roxanne, she's the rock star of our family and chief financial officer. And she's yet to tell me where we bank, but thank you, dear. Our very first investor is Keith Bryant. Keith, stand up and say hi to everybody. Keith came in and with a harebrained idea to build a hotel actually we built some townhomes in Courtenay and then a hotel, and Keith has hotel expertise and helped us see our way through that. Our oldest investor is my Uncle Howie, who just turned 94, and he's a kick in the pants, and he'd be here today, but he went to celebrate his birthday. He drove himself up to his daughters in Slave Lake to celebrate his birthday. And lots of thank yous to especially the Highstreet team. It amazes me every day. Christine and I were talking a bit earlier how we can take a piece of dirt and turn it into a home for 200 people in short of 2 years. There's just a ton of things that have to happen, and it's an orchestration of multiple things coming together, from approvals and money and civil and engineering and drafting, and like you just think about all the things that come together to build a project. You're going to see an amazing project in West Kelowna today that will have at its completion somewhere around 600 units. And this team just pulls it off like it's nothing. And they're doing it that at the same time that they're doing another 4 or 5 projects throughout the province. So thank you, you guys. You are rock stars, and you really do do some pretty darn amazing things. So maybe this is the only time of year we really get to publicly thank you, but it's well deserved. Thank you.
I think we're good.
If you're on that picture last year,
you get to, yeah, this is, I like to, Don always says start with the end in mind, so we'll probably end like this today. So bear that in mind. There'll be a picture at the end. Okay, Don, you get to do this exciting slide here.
well, as Scott pointed out so eloquently at the beginning during the formal part of the meeting, our structure, it is a very simple structure. The general partner up at the top is 0.01%. It's the GP of the GP-LP structure. The LP, owner's LP, was formerly Development's LP, and as Scott mentioned, why the REOT exists. All you really need to know is that you own shares in one fundamental entity that is made up of a tax-deferred entity and Highstreet Owners LP. And we, in the past couple of years, have bought Highstreet Ventures. Last year we bought that off Scott and Melissa and incorporate. Now, Highstreet Ventures was the company that does actually execute the developments. Bought that from Scott and Melissa, and it made sense. It was kind of explained in the documents, and you can ask questions about that if you want, but it made sense from the board's point of view because it takes away the complexities that would be involved in transitioning, or if Scott at some point in time, if we transition to another CEO at some point in the future, this makes it a lot simpler if it's not a separate entity owned by Scott and Melissa. Scott was all over it, and that became a reality last year. And we also formed Highstreet Communities, which is wholly owned by Highstreet Owners LP, headed up by President Pino. Where is President Pino? Right. Oh, he's right here. you're all dark. I can't see you. Just slipped from my view, like you always do. Yeah, President Pino runs Highstreet Communities. So that is the structure. If you click the button, that entity owns on the left side is all the stuff we develop, on the right stuff is all the stuff we own and operate. So the rental apartments are on the right and the developments on the left. So that picture is going to get broader as time goes on and even harder to read than it already is. But that gives you a pretty good outline of the relatively simple structure that we have evolved to. And if you got any questions, ask Scott.
Yeah, we can go back to that. We don't need to dwell on it, but here's all the communities we operate, and there's 7. This little blip here is Skyline owns 50% of Dawson Creek, so you see that over there. And then what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 communities in various stages of development. So those would all be land acquired, stuff in permitting, or stuff under construction. So that's why you see that there. Okay.
So when we first started back in 2005, we'd create a GPL Street structure, buy some land, develop a project, sell the project, distribute all the money to our investors, and then shortly thereafter we go back to our same investors and ask for money, raise money again. And over time we thought, well, that was kind of an inefficient process and this would be much better, so we amalgamated under owners, and that was 2016-ish, and that gives you a little picture of the price of the performance of the units since we started in 2016. An overall gain of 203% compared to the S&P. And there's a lot of comments you could make about the S&P. It goes up and down, but driven largely by things that don't really have a lot to do with the business, emotion and so on, and external factors, but only a 59%, including dividends, overall gain from that 2016 time period. So yeah, this is you Highstreet team rock stars. Thank you for this. On behalf of all the investors, we thank you a lot. This is a pretty amazing return. So. We have a formal board of Owners LP. These board members have been with us for quite a while. I'd like them to introduce them, and you can all stand up and stay standing as we go through the list. Derek Payne. Derek was treasurer at WestJet, and he's a very bright, I don't want to say accounting type, but that's what you are.
I realized yesterday that we wouldn't probably be here, at least not in this forum and not with these people, if Derek didn't hire me at WestJet. That kind of started things, because then from there I met Don, and things continued on from there. So we owe a lot to Derek today.
Thanks, Derek. Eric Morse. Eric is a professor at the Ivey School of Business and was Scott's professor at Victoria, UVic Business School, and brings a wealth of knowledge to our board, and we're super happy to have him. You probably got lots you could say about Eric.
Yeah, Eric's a good softball player, for sure. And no, I mean, you got to give Eric credit. I think everybody here on the board has been chipping away at me for various lengths of time. And so Eric's probably had the longest since he met me before the rest of the board. I would have been about 19 when Eric met me. Yeah, so lots of great learning in the entrepreneurship program at UVic, and it was great that we stayed in contact, and then we met again. We met quite frequently. Eric's been an investor since the early days, and then convinced me to go out to a program he's putting on at Ivey. I think you got to still stand there. He was standing.
Well, we're going to see you all as a group. It's just sorry we're rambling a little bit.
Sorry.
When it was your turn, you liked it. Okay, next is Kevin White. Kevin?
Okay, let's go.
Kevin was a very successful software entrepreneur. Is that? Close enough. And it's very hard to keep track of where Kevin is. He's been in Costa Rica and Australia and like all over the Lima, Peru. No, that was your son. All over the dang world, and motorcycled from Scottsdale last week. And anyway, he brings a very interesting and knowledgeable, deep knowledge perspective to the board, and we're very happy to have him on. Matt Phillips isn't here today. Matt, yeah, we'll give Kevin a hand. You can stand up here if you want. Matt Phillips, I got to say, probably the most unique perspective on our board, brings the most unique perspective on the board. Matt is an entrepreneur that has an amazing story of starting a microbrewery and turning it into a big business, and one of the most successful, Phillips Brewing, one of the most successful breweries in the province, maybe in Canada, I don't know. Matt recently sold a big chunk of that business, and he's now moved into semi-retirement like me. A great board member. Nigel Terrett. Where's Nigel? Nigel also... Nigel's retired. I don't know what the hell you do now. Little as possible. Little as possible. Great board member. Happy to have him. Brings a lot of good questions and knowledge to the board.
Nigel's been around. I didn't get a chance to know Kevin either, but Nigel's been around since 2013 when we were still working with Train, and Nigel came in and helped us get better at that time, and the journey continues. So thanks Nigel. And Kevin, I got introduced to through Derek Johnson. So Derek, wherever Derek is, they were appointed as accounting. There he is in the back. So Derek is appointed as accounting advisors. Derek's been a huge supporter as well. All these all these guys he does taxes for that have too much money, he sends them over to High Street. So it's good. So there you go.
Yeah, that rounds out the 7-member board, and it is important to point this out because it's a fiduciary board. We actually have the ability and responsibility to hire and fire the CEO, but I really don't know who would ever want to do that. You're fired. No, I'm not. Yeah, so it does have a proper legal structure, and you're in good hands. Now you can sit down.
Okay, thanks, Don.
You betcha.
Now I'll bring up the presidents of the two entities. So Don touched on it briefly. We were talking about the structure. First of all, I'll talk about Christina. Christina Wilson's the president of what is Highstreet Ventures, and Highstreet Ventures basically takes care of all of the development and construction activities. Christina's focus is on product and execution, and she's been with us since March 2015, started as a development coordinator, and was appointed president in January 2022. So that tells you something about Christina. Over 7 years, started as a coordinator, worked her way up, learns continuously, constantly striving for more, mentors her team to greater levels, and we see that result happening. So thanks, Christina. Come on up, and we'll get you to say a few words.
Thanks. Oh, that's loud. Okay. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Don.
It's
It's a pleasure to be up here standing in front of you today to introduce the Highstreet Ventures team and talk a little bit about what we've been doing last year. We've been on a really transformative change in construction, and I guess ChatGPT told you a little bit about it this morning, but really the construction industry is a pretty archaic industry. It really hasn't changed. It has technology now, but other than that, in terms of how it operates, it really hasn't changed. And we've been really wanting to do that. And why can't it be a cleaner site? Why can't it be more efficient? Why can't it be a respectful environment? Why can't they have nice facilities? And so we've really been on that journey to make it more of a professional environment. Like an office, they'll always have weather. That's really the biggest difference. But why can't it be more like an office environment? So we knew we wanted to do that. We didn't know how. And actually, Elevate Construction, so Jason and Kate over here, if Jason, you want to give a wave, has really provided the tools to be able to do that. So we've been partnered with him since about June of last year, and working through that, and it's been awesome. I just heard from one of our site supers the other day, was telling me that he couldn't imagine operating a site without this in place. It's changed his work life completely, which is really awesome. I was at Parksville a few weeks ago, and a foreman came up to me and said that High Street is one of his favorite places to show up. The culture and the respect that we have going on there, and it's really rewarding to hear that. And from an owner perspective, I was talking to a sub-trade, and they were mentioning that for them now, because we're so reliable and predictable in what we do, they can be more reliable and predictable in how they organize their business and their future work, which is really, really awesome. So it's been a really rewarding journey to be on. I've been really proud to be a part of it, and it's the team that's making it happen. And I just want to kind of give a shout out right now to some of our sub-trades who, some of them I believe are here today. It's changes in Tizzy all the time, and they've been on this journey with us and really have embraced it. And without what they do every day, bringing from paper to life these buildings, it wouldn't happen. They are the experts in their field. They are craftspeople, what they do every day. And I really want to just give them a really big round of applause for their partnerships and what they do. Thank you. And we couldn't have buildings to build without the awesome, fantastic team of Highstreet Ventures. And there's a lot of them in the room today, so I'm going to make you stand up. Stand up, don't be shy, let's go. They're a shy group. Everybody on the Ventures side, stand up. So they're obviously, Don touched on it earlier, like the dedication that they have every day to persevere, whether it's dealing with municipalities, Eric's, wherever wherever he is here, knows about that, whether it's dealing with the CRA. Accounting knows all about that. They come to work dedicated, passionate, and it's really a joy to be around them and work with them every day. And I really, really do want to give a thank you to them to the bottom of my heart. Like, I really appreciate what you guys do every day. It's really awesome. So thank you very much. And last but definitely not least, the leadership team. Hannah Kirby is our VP of Finance. Hannah, stand up. Stay standing for a week. She obviously, her attention to detail and all her financial wizardry and Excel wizardry. I'm always impressed by what she can do in Excel. She keeps us in the green, and thank you very much, Hannah. We have Janelle Teddy. She is our VP of Talent and Services. So Janelle's been with us since just over a year. I guess January of last year she joined us. It was a brand new role that we had, and she's really molded it into something really special, and is really everything people related in our organization, and she does a fantastic job supporting the managers and leaders with everything to do with that, so thank you, Janelle. Neil Bolton, Neil's gonna stand up. He's our VP of Development. He's been with us, same thing, just over a year. I've actually known Neil a long time. We go back to 2005, I guess, when we worked together in Calgary. So he's leading this team with basically everything to do with design and permitting, working through the bureaucracy of municipalities and negotiating things to make it happen, and he does a fantastic job of that, so thank you, Neil. And the newest member of our team, Tony Kudrick. He is our new VP of Construction. So Tony's been with us nine days. So if you have any Highstreet questions, ask Tony. He'll be able to answer for you.
Give me an answer. It might not be the right one. Just ask ChatGPT.
Just ask ChatGPT, that's right. Really excited to have him on board. Thrilled to be passing the torch over to Tony. I know he's going to do a fantastic job leading construction to even greater heights, and really happy to have you here, Tony. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an honor and privilege to work with this leadership team every day. We sit around the table weekly, but we're always collaborating all the time, finding solutions to issues or coming up with new ideas, and it really is a great team for me to be around, so thank you guys. I really appreciate everything you do. Other than that, I guess we'll see you this afternoon at some of these job sites. If you have any questions about what you're seeing today, you've kind of seen some of the high streeters, please don't be afraid to ask questions, and hopefully we'll have some answers, or ask Tony and he'll give you some sort of answer. So. But yeah, we've got lots of things that we're working towards, just a continuous improvement and continuous evolution in construction and development and everything that we do with the product, and excited to actually show it to you today because it looks a lot different than if you were here last year. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Christina. Okay, next up, the other side of the business, communities. So like we saw earlier, communities takes care of all of the properties that we own and operate. And Pino Mancuso has been, we appointed Pino president of communities in January of this year. He's been with us since September 2017, I get that right? So many of you have heard this before, but it's worth repeating. It's a funny story because it was May of 2017 when Dawn and I were having breakfast in the restaurant over here trying to figure out what we were going to say at the AGM that morning. That's kind of the funny part, but insert laughter. Anyway, so we were sitting there trying to figure it out, and it's like, hey, that's Pino over there. What's he doing here? And he was in town for some WestJet thing, and he's like, hey, at the time we were looking for somebody to run our communities division, and he said, would you ever move to Kelowna? Yeah, I would. Oh, good. You want to run property management? Let me think about it. So then he thought about it, and a few months later he came and started working with us. So that's awesome. And Dawn and I knew Pino from the WestJet days, and so we knew his background, we knew his values would line up. And Pino also is focused on continuous improvement, much like Christina. He's always looking for ways to get better. He's a great coach. I say he's never satisfied, but always happy. So that pretty much describes Pino. Pino, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. There's a little bit more to that story. When I said that I did want to move to Kelowna and I said I needed to think about it, I really needed to speak with my boss. My wife's in the back, Antoinette, thank you very much. And so it's been an incredible journey. I've really enjoyed my time here, and in January we kind of kicked it up a notch with kind of separating to become our own entity. So now we also run sales. There's actually two parts to the business. There's kind of the construction development side now, and then what I call the service side. So I learned something many years ago that we used to say that we're in the customer service industry. We just happen to fly airplanes. And that's really relevant here today. We're a customer service company. We just happen to manage apartment buildings. And so the same principles really are the same. And so a lot of people will actually say to me, they'll go, well, what's the difference between when I left WestJet, I was the regional manager. I had 13 airports out west, about staff about 470. And people would say, well, what's the difference between running apartment buildings and running an airline? And I said, the biggest difference is apartment buildings don't move, or they shouldn't. And so it's way easier doing this. I love every part of it, but it doesn't happen without an incredible team. And so I'd like to introduce them. Kyle Lethbridge, he's been with us since January of 2018. He started really just after me, and so we brought Kyle on. Kyle, you might as well stand up here. He's our community services manager. We brought Kyle on to manage our Mission Flats property, which is just on KLO Road. And 9 months later, the decision was made to sell Mission Flats. And we thought, what do we do with Kyle? And I said, well, I'll use Kyle for sure. So for really the first 3 years, it was really just Kyle and I. We were doing what we could to make sure that our properties were running and they had all the processes in place, and that we were really set up for the growth that was coming our way. This year though, with taking on sales and marketing, the question came up, was like, well, who's gonna do sales and marketing? Who is gonna work with a really great team already? Because Joanne and Anna are also leading up to those teams, and so I was like, Kyle's my guy. So Kyle right now works really well with Joanne and our marketing team. Oftentimes people ask me how many apartment buildings I have, and I go, I don't really know, because Joanne's selling every single one that I have in Calgary as fast as we're getting them, so it's really tough to keep that number. So Kyle, thank you very much. Then we've got, you stay standing. Then we've got, right after that we have James Kellington. James started with us in Kamloops in our Aberdeen View. He was our manager there. After running it for 3 years, we started to build out a bigger structure, and we needed a regional manager, so we brought James on. James started with our Alberta property, and when we brought on Carrie, who will be next, we've now shifted it a bit, and so James now runs our BC, so thank you very much. And then we brought on our other regional manager from Alberta, and that's Carrie Lapp. On the community side, Carrie's actually our longest serving employee. Carrie started with us in Willowbrook, which is in Grand Prairie. She started as actually a leasing agent when Skyline was running the property. And I think Scott realized very quickly when we decided that we should be running these properties that they wanted to keep Carrie. So Carrie was a community leader in Grand Prairie. And then when we opened up our Skaha Shores in Penticton, we brought her up. She was more than happy to leave beautiful Grand Prairie for Penticton. And so we were very, very happy. And then so she worked there for just over a year, and then was promoted to the regional manager. She now takes care of all our Alberta properties. Obviously, she was there for the longest portion of her time, so she really knows Alberta properties very, very well, and we're very happy to have her. So thank you very much, Carrie. And last but not least is obviously Alicia Chapel. Alicia, come on up. Alicia is a really, really important part of our team. Alicia actually reports to Hannah and gets a lot of her mentorship from Hannah, but is part of our team. She's, her and her team obviously are up on the 7th floor with us. And she's very quiet, but she sure keeps us in line. So we're very, very happy to have Alicia. So Alicia, thanks. And thanks for the leadership team. I guess the problem is that when you give an Italian mic, I'm just going to be up here for a little while. But if you are part of the community's team, can you please stand up?
Wow. How many units they run? About 1,300?
It's an amazing team, and I feel very, very fortunate to work with every single one of you every day. This year has been a really big learning curve for all of us. Our leasing agents in the back, who are now our, what do we call them, community services specialists, they've now taken on warranty, which I've been told from Christina that due to the tax schedule, you know, we're not going to have any more deficiencies in our building. So don't worry, guys, you're going to not have any problems coming up here shortly. But we're at 99.3% in all of our occupancy, so you guys are really doing a heck of a job. So thank you guys very, very much. We also have some very special guests here from Kamloops. So our Kamloops people, can you please stand up? There you are. That's Miranda and Shelby. So, we actually have a lot of new people here. Miranda and Caitlin started on the exact same day, March 23rd. They're our community leaders in Penticton and in Kamloops. So welcome to the team. And Shelby started on Tuesday. So this isn't really an AGM. This is what we do for all of our new employees. We bring all the investors in. We're all here to meet you, Shelby. So thanks, guys, very much. So other than that, oh, actually, I have I brought a.
Oh, the real speech comes out.
I can shut his mic off.
I got this a couple of months ago, and it made me laugh. We get tons and tons of Google reviews and feedback, and this one really made me laugh, so I figured I'd share it with you guys today. It says, "Dear Mr. Mancuso." First off, you know, Mr. Mancuso, that's kind of saved for my dad. I'm just Pino, but I was like, okay. What type of apartment buildings are you running here? So I sat up here, okay. How have you been able to find the friendliest staff in all of Edmonton? Now, I was born and raised in Calgary, so I'm a Flames fan, so when they said that, I was like, yeah, in Edmonton. Right? So it says here, it goes on. I moved in 4 months ago, and the people living on either side of me are so friendly that it's got me thinking that Highstreet must have paid them too. Let's see here. It says, living here is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. It makes coming home from work after a long day so enjoyable. The staff try to put fun into the events, and although my shift work prevents me from attending all of them, the ones that I do are such a hoot. So right away I thought, a hoot, they must be like Dawn's age. So keep up the great work, love Highstreet. So we get tons of that, so thank you very much.
Nice going. You know, Pino is very much a family man. I invited him out camping once. He said, "Do you mind if I bring a few family members?" I said, "No." So he brings like 6 motorhomes. They show up, there's a big train of motorhomes coming to the campground. I went, "Really?" And then he introduced me to his cousin. "What's your cousin's name?" "Pino Mancuso." "Oh no, there's 2 of you." Pino does a great job, and we're very, very happy to have him on the Highstreet team, and Communities is rocking it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, I do want to save a lot of time for questions, so I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on these next slides. I'll whip through them. I think always important to, when you're investing in Highstreet, it's not just an investment, you're investing in a business, you're investing in it long term. You want to be in line with our vision and values. I always think about our vision as, you know, what's going to be important 40 years from now. I'll be 87. Don will be 107. And hopefully we'll still be here chairing the meeting. And everyone in High Street's community will want their friends to work with us, live with us, and invest with us. Is the vision that's important. The order is important. So it starts with the people, and if people will recommend people to work with us because it's such a great place to work, everything else will follow. It'll be taken care of. I'll carry on. Whoops, a little too quick on the button there. We spent a bunch of time in 2022. This was kind of post AGM last year. We spent a bunch of time working out our what are we selling and what are we doing, and the marketing team had lots of input in that with Anna's help and a whole bunch of brainstorming sessions, and the leadership team. We were trying to figure out exactly what we're doing, and we trademarked a few simple ideas. You'll see that on our websites. So if you go to gohighstreet.ca, you can check this stuff out. I think it's just, to know more about what you're invested in, I threw this up just as something that you can talk about. If anybody does ask you what's High Street all about, and you say, well, they build carbon-free homes. We have something called Quality Inside, which is a kind of a ripoff of Intel. But I got the idea off Rivian's website, actually, because they have a whole section that gets into all the details in the building that take a little more time to explain. But it's all the stuff around soundproofing, the net zero ready step code 4 stuff, all the money that we invest in the buildings to make them higher quality. It's all detailed on the website. When we were selling more condos, we made a decision, since we basically have an endless warranty now, why not go to the market and say we're going to double the warranty? So typical condos sell with the legislated minimum warranty, which is 2, 5, 10 is the acronym. So 2 years for plumbing and electrical systems, 5 years for building envelope, 10 years for structural. So we write in the contract with buyers of our condos, we doubled that. So it's 4, 10, 20. And basically we'll stand behind the product. There's no real end date to the warranty. If we didn't build it right the first time, we will go fix it. So we're still doing it today. I just got a bill for a fan upgrade for the makeup air unit in Copper Sky in the Yellowknife, which we built in 2012. So you could argue well after warranty, but the fan was undersized. I think it was supposed to be 1.5 horsepower instead of 1 or something, and we did all this investigation to find out why the makeup air unit wasn't working as well as it should have, and probably enough ventilation in the building. It wasn't sized large enough. Nikki did all the digging. Nikki's here somewhere. There's Nikki back there, and figured out what we had to do. We fixed it and paid the bill. So Strata's very happy. In fact, I guess by virtue of that, one of the buyers there, where did they buy? In Mosaic? So there you go. So they know that High Street stands behind what we build, and found out that we were building in Parksville and bought a condo in Parksville. So the long tail of these things, that's 11 years later, but hey, this is how you build a reputation, and this is what High Street's in it for the long term. So on the community side, we simplified our ideas around everything we do around customer service and people down to this feel good, live right slogan, which encompasses everything we do for the people, and Pino's quote from the person living there said it best. So we must pay the people to live there. Okay, on to the quick business update. You've heard a bunch of this already, so I won't delve on it. But we did change significantly how we deliver construction. I think the biggest symbol of that, and the biggest example of that, we're going to see it today when we get on the bus. And after we stop at Ascent, we'll go out to West Side Road. And a lot of you were here last year and saw framing underway on the first building. We got Jason and Kate and the rest of the team at Elevate involved towards the end of June. It was right after the AGM last year. I happened to find a LinkedIn post talking about a site superintendent training course, and I followed that through to end up talking to Jason a week later and got them involved to help us with construction. We came out with a new schedule, a tax schedule, in August of last year for the site at Westbrook. And that schedule had people moving in May. And so that was August last year, people moving in May. We moved people in May. And so if you think of everything going on in construction, that is worth applause to all of the team here. Thank you. And Chad, do you want to stand up? Where's Chad? Chad, there's the guy. So Chad took over as site super, it was last summer, and totally embraced all the ideas around what we're doing with tax scheduling and with Elevate, and was, helped with that huge culture change on site and really made it happen. So Chad, thank you very much. And there's another, it's funny that I thought about the last time we actually finished a building on schedule from the original schedule. Rob Monteith was the project manager, and it was at Train Construction. Rob, where are you? Rob, yes, there's Rob in the back there. So that was 10 years ago. The difference was Rob had to work 7 days a week and about 70 hours a week to make that happen. So I think the difference is today it's done in a much more coordinated, scheduled fashion, and less stress, less overtime, everything else. But Rob deserves credit. And in fact, Rob's the one that provided the prize giveaway on the RV solar panel and does all of our solar installations as well. So thanks, Rob. One of the neatest things about the exposure to what Elevate's doing is this whole idea of lean. And so lean sounded like a buzzword to me until I started to really learn about it and learn about some of the ideas. I mean, it starts, to me, there's two fundamental principles. I'll probably get it wrong because there's probably more than two, but respect for people and continuous learning. And those are two things that I value immensely. And it's completely aligned with how I think. And so what it's allowed is as we adopt these systems and these ideas around schedule transparency and this idea of see together, know together, act together, and when you see together and you have the same information, everybody can act quicker, you can solve issues, and that's really a lot of the changes has brought bringing the problems to surface sooner so that you can deal with them before they become a problem. And we can take that learning in construction and apply it to other parts of the business. And so one of the most exciting things for me, in addition to everything we've been doing in construction, is now applying it to the design and development side. And so we've been embarking on this more recently to basically make the permitting schedule a lot more transparent and have that open to everybody so that we know when there's roadblocks, so we can deal with it, so we can stay on schedule, so we can improve the permitting side of the business too. So that's pretty awesome, and I am very excited about that. Okay, on to just kind of general update. I think people are generally aware that the real estate market's gone crazy again, which is really weird. And I think last year we were talking about expecting a recession, having lots of cash, being prepared for anything. Kind of started to happen and then didn't. So things were on a downturn until about March, and then all of a sudden things took off. I mean, in March we thought we would have an excess of condo inventory left in Parksville when we completed the buildings at the time, a year from then. And all of a sudden in March, sales just started to take off. I think we've had $9 million in sales in the last month in Parksville. We only have 33 condos left out of 136, or is it 137? Yeah. Yeah, we keep putting the price up too. The other, which we, historically, we've been pretty happy with the margin that we're at. And so even in a hot market, we won't put the price up so we can provide great value. If we're getting a really good margin, we don't bother. In Parksville, we weren't getting a really great margin, so we're putting the price up. So we're trying to make up for that. It's a tighter margin in Parksville for sure. Yeah, we're looking at it's currently about 9% profit margin in Parksville. It was not that at the time we bought the land. Construction costs got out of control, and now we'll make up some of it on the revenue side. I think we're going to make up some of it on the cost side as well. I'm hoping we'll get to 10% by the end of it. That said, the other place, condos are kind of, once interest rates settled down, everybody started buying real estate again, and probably nowhere more aggressively than in Northeast Calgary. I don't know what is going on there, but we look at the sales to inventory ratio. So if you look at sales in a given month and the inventory at the end of that month, if that ratio is over 25-ish% typically, you would see, if that's for a consecutive number of months, 3 or 4 months, you'd typically see a rising market. Calgary was getting into the 30s and 40s through the winter. In the month of April, the sales to listing ratio was 136%, or 136. So more sales are happening in the month than the inventory at the end of the month. So there was, I think, 64 sales and 44 condos available at the end of April. Anything that we list, so as the renters' leases expire, we list them for sale, we give them a quick coat of paint, clean them up. It's all happening now before they even hit MLS. So we're putting the prices up there as well, and the market just keeps absorbing them like mad. So we should have the loan paid off in Calgary by the end of July. So that's pretty exciting. That was Calgary. I could go on about Calgary, but you've heard the stories. That was a tough one, and I should have been more stressed at the time when we went through the various ramifications of renting, selling, renting, bank's gonna take it back, whatever. There was a bunch of stuff going on that we fought through. I shouldn't say the bank's gonna take it back. We had a bank that wasn't willing to extend the construction loan, and we weren't able to get takeout at the time and had to get a certain number of sales, and they were being really difficult, but that's a longer story. I've written about it in one of the annual letters, so you could look it up. I think it was last year's letter. And we're just happy. I'm happy to see that loan get paid out. It's very good. The other thing to be aware of is CMHC insured loan rates for apartment buildings. I know there's always, hey, we're invested in apartments. Interest rates have gone up. This should be a concern, right? If interest rates go up, typically what we call capitalization rates will follow. Cap rates will go up. That will reduce the value of real estate, operating real estate. That's typically a concern and should be a concern. And we expected it to be a bigger concern, which is why we have lots of cash and we're ready for a downturn and thought there would be a downturn. And the other day we got rates from Pete, who works at Skyline, does our takeout financing with us, and asked him what the rates were on current 10-year money. And so picture last August, we got takeout financing in Comox. 10-year money, CMHC insured, at 3.66%. So that was last August. So think of everything that's happened since last August, and all of the interest rate rises, and the central banks cranking up interest rates and trying to claw back inflation, and how are we going to get this down, and the market's supposed to slow down, and interest rates are supposed to be way higher. The rate last week on 10-year money was 3.8. So yeah, it's odd. I mean, I think the bond yield's been artificially suppressed, so that's kept rates lower, and the bond yield has climbed a fair amount even since last week. So we may still see some increase, but I would have expected, 4.5, 5, something much higher than 3.8. So that's the reason apartment values have held up as well as they have. So that's something that as investors you want to think about, and the reason why the values have held, it's been a surprise that it's held that well, and that's primarily the reason why. Construction costs are definitely out of control. The site we're going to go see on West Side Road, we're building at about $245 a square foot in hard construction costs. That includes everything on site, everything you see there. That'll be landscaping, civil, everything you see, $245 a square foot for hard construction costs. When the quotes came in on Ascent in Upper Mission, which we're also going to look at today, it came in at $310 a square foot. That's ridiculous in just over a year, probably about 16 months. So we're battling that. We're working hard on it. Our target is $275 on Ascent, and we will get there. So I know we'll get there. And we have seen results of that already, and so our trade partners are working with us, and we are tendering more widely. We just want to make sure we're in the right ballpark on pricing. It's the first time really we've been out of the market on cost. We know of other projects going on, and we know that we should be in the $275 range. Other projects in Kelowna are around $260 that aren't the same level of quality that we're at. So we're pushing hard on that. We need to get that down. Everything we're doing with Elevate will help that. We're improving productivity. We're making it faster. It'll reduce our general conditions. It'll reduce the cost for our trades. So we know we'll be able to get that down. So working hard on it. And the final one, this is a surprise for some of you probably, but Phoenix. That may be news. People are wondering, U.S. expansion. So a bit of history on that, and Jason, you look ready to stand up, so this is good. Phoenix, he's ready. So we've been working with Jason primarily at Elevate, Jason and Kevin, and Kate's in the background there, really running the show. And working with Elevate since last June, as mentioned earlier, and everything aligns. Like our value alignment is awesome. We think about things the same way. They've really helped us transform construction. I happened to ask Jason last September when he came out to Kelowna and we were going for dinner. I said, "You ever thought about starting a construction company?" Yeah, we're going to do that. And he's got a vast amount of construction experience at very high levels, doing huge projects like these billion-dollar projects and everything. And he said, yeah, we're going to do that, but not yet. And I say, okay, when are you going to be ready? Oh, that's a couple years away. We got a lot to do. We got a lot to change in the industry. We got all this content to create. We're gonna be busy doing that for a while. Okay, well, let me know when you change your mind. And then I think as things has ground on in the consulting business, you can tell the story better, but realized how hard that is to make a buck and do that well, and also to be able to take a construction company and help with the training down in Phoenix. I happened to send him a piece of dirt through a WhatsApp chat in February, and he changed his mind pretty quickly. So they were ready to go, and I think had an epiphany themselves and decided they wanted to get into construction sooner. So as soon as we started those discussions, like, great, let's buy a piece of land in Phoenix, and we can start there, and we'll work together, and it gives another great avenue of opportunity and growth and diversification for the Highstreet investment, and allows us to get into an entirely different market that doesn't have the same influences. One of the reasons that it's so appealing is we don't really want to go to Eastern Canada again. We did that in Guelph once, and it's a long way, and it's hard on everybody, and it's hard on families. We always liked the idea of expanding to the US. It's been on our strategic plan for a long time, but the fear of going there and trying to form all these relationships and start a construction company, and how are we going to do all that, that was a daunting thought process. So until we met Jason and the whole gang at Elevate, it wasn't something that we were ready to contemplate. And now it is, and we think it's a wonderful opportunity and gives us a whole other avenue for growth, because Western Canada is limited in size. I mean, you've got the Metro Phoenix area is about 5 million people. British Columbia is about 5.5. So think of the opportunity there to put, as we earn more and more money in Highstreet. I mean, I worry about the future growth and worry about where we're going to put all this money. And say we're at 280 million now in equity, and if we've reasonably doubled that every 5 years, then we're at 560 in 5 years. Then we're over $1 billion in 10 years. Like, what do you do with all that? And so that becomes the problem. Okay? Yeah. It's still a problem, right? It's I think she's cheaper than you, Don. I don't know. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus, Ross. Sorry. I take that back. You're right. That can't be true. Actually, I think that's true. We go out for lunch and Rox pulls the credit card out before Don. So yeah, for sure. Yeah. Doesn't have a credit card. That's what you always say. But anyway, okay, back to
Jason's chomping at the bit.
back to Phoenix. Yeah. So I don't know, Jason, you want to come up and say something about why we're doing this and maybe a little on your background and how you got into this. So introduce Jason.
Jason's a great guy, but he loves the microphone. Here, buddy.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I was actually fine to not have it, but this is a pleasure. We don't work with, so I'm just going to be myself when I say this. We don't work with non-performing companies, and we don't work with people that don't care about people. And so it's an honor for us to work with Highstreet. There was and I'll be quick, 90 seconds? Okay, we're ready to go. So there was a time when I was thinking about going to medical school, and I started my first year. I was working at Hensel Phelps full-time on a $100 million project, and decided to start going to school, and I was getting straight A's and loving it. And one day it hit me on the drive to work. Actually, we can probably change more lives in construction, or I could with my small influence. And if you're a doctor, I'm not insulting you, I'm just saying that in construction, we can see hundreds or thousands of people and affect their lives and the lives of their families, and probably have more impact than many other avenues that we can take in our personal lives and at work. And that's not an insult to any other profession, but we touch the lives of hundreds of thousands of people by the time you compound that, and the vendors and the people that interact with our project sites. So I just am really excited about the concept that quality and cost and schedule are not dials that inverse as you raise one, meaning it's not one or the other. We can build projects with good quality at great cost and take care of people as we go. So that's one of the main things that I'm excited about, and we're committed to doing that. So as we partner and head into Phoenix, just get ready. Oh, let me tell you something. Where you're headed in a direction with these buildings where all new projects will be clean, safe, and organized, and be the best in your region of any other project. That's where you're headed because of you and your people. You're headed in a direction where you will cut 20, and I dare say 40% of your durations off of your projects from start to finish. I promise you that will happen. You're headed in a direction where you're going to probably want to invest in personal protective equipment, because you're going to start doing tours every week on these projects. And so that's where you're headed. And you'll get to go home and say, yeah, we're making great money, but we're also literally changing the lives of thousands and thousands of people. One last thing, and I'll test you all, and this is you in the US because this is from the CDC. I don't have any metrics in Canada. But in 2023, 1,000 people will die from construction-related injuries in the US in construction. And I'd like somebody to say, how many people in the US will die by suicide? Does anybody know?
More than that.
5,000. So it's a 5 to 1. And so in the US at least, the suicide rate in construction, that means us, the people that like the Highstreet Ventures folks, the suicide rate is 58 per 100,000. Veterans in the US is 38. And so when you think about that, those staggering numbers, it is not a little thing. You can't leave this room thinking, this is a typical meeting. Obviously, we're going to beef ourselves up. We're going to pat ourselves on the back. It's going to be butterflies and kittens, and we're all going to clap. You are literally taking that number down. That 100,000, by the way you build and the vision that you have, respecting people, you are saving lives. And so I'm really proud to work with you all.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. We are going to
We gotta get the Q&A.
we are going to move to Q&A. So just before you start here, Scott,
We're going there. That's in Parks.
think about questions that you want to ask.
This was last year. You can see that, and then
This
this
is-
is what it's gonna look like when it's done. And there,
Back up to that last question. Just leave it on that one because you'll get to see this site today. So it's time for a break. We've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes. Everybody stand up. High five your neighbor, big old stretch, pull the underwear out of some cracks and stuff.
Really appreciate what you do. Maybe, probably what a lot of the investors' questions would be with the funny little tax bill we got this year, because of that it's a tax deferred thing, but I got a call from Derek to pay some tax, so maybe you could explain that for us?
yeah, for sure.
Hannah?
So it's not all tax deferred. The Q units are tax deferred. So if you invest in the Q units through the REIT, it's tax deferred. Otherwise, it's partnership income, and partnership income is allocated out to all the individual investors. So to the extent you own anything in owner's LP, that is all distributed out on a pro rata basis to investors. And to the extent you own any of the A units in the REIT, that is also allocated out on a pro rata basis to investors. So Derek, did I get that right? Close enough? Yeah. And so, so you do get, it's an unfortunate, or maybe fortunate, if I ask Derek, what's better, Corp or LP? Derek, what's the answer on that? Depends. Always the answer from an accountant. So if you have a Corp, I think there's some advantages. If you're investing personally, you're best off to do it through the Q units. We'd highly encourage you to do that through RSP or TFSA. You were about to say more other than it depends, Derek? Is that the?
Well, what I was going to say is that in 2022, the income was a result of the sale of the commons, right? It was rather significant. So when you take a look at the value change historically, a lot of that has been growth in the value of the underlying apartments, whereas in 2022, there were real transactions, real sales, which resulted in real income, which is taxable to any LP unit.
That's a great point, Derek. Yeah, thanks for adding that, because when we keep apartments, it is tax deferred as well. So when we hold COMOX, you don't see anything other than the operating income from that apartment. And because there's such a high depreciation level, we don't see much in the way of taxable income on properties we keep. So it is when you see a big year where we're selling lots of condos like we did in 2022, we end up with a bigger tax bill. In years where we keep all of our apartments that we build, you will see barely anything. So yeah, there is that. And of course, if you have it in Q units in the REIT, you won't see any taxes either. Yeah, Larry.
During the construction and the connection with Elevate, you used the term tax schedule or something like that. Can you explain that?
Yeah, for sure. I'll do my best. So takt is a German word for rhythm or beat. And so the idea behind it is that a tax schedule for construction creates a rhythm in the workflow so that we create work areas, so we make more discrete work areas in the building. And then the idea is that there's trade flow on a regular rhythm, and we pick a takt time, it's called, as part of that. You go, okay, what's the optimal takt time for the areas of work that we've broken down? And the idea is that everybody moves through the building on that rhythm or beat, which is on the takt time, which might be 3 days, it might be 4 days, it might be 5 days, and you have that tack time, and that creates your flow of schedule through the building. So that's the idea behind a tacked schedule.
TACT is T-A-K-T.
Yeah.
Got a backup question.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is unusual, it's new. How did trades manage accommodating that? Because I've been in the business in the past. Everybody likes to do things their own way. So how have you been able to encourage that, adopt it, manage?
Yeah.
Chad has a great answer for that.
Yeah, I'd turn to Chad or Jeremy or Mike if you guys want to speak to that. I think we did, it was an effort on all of our parts, and certainly we had willing partners on it to be a part of that process. And it started with a high level, why and kind of what's the mindset, what are we trying to do? And I think people generally quickly got on board. Mike, you want to say anything about it, if I can put you on the spot? Mike runs the electrical contracting company, and they're on the Westbrook site.
Yeah, no, it was a great change. We wanted to see it for some time, and it's, I know for Aurora and for IH, we bought into it right out of the gate. Allowed us to streamline our processes, get a workflow down to scheduled times, know when the end of the project is, helps us calculate our hourly rates and manpower and everything. It's been a really good transition.
Thanks, Mike.
Has it been good for you financially?
Yeah, I would say so. You can actually see an end date for the first time on labor scheduling. So that's the biggest thing for electrical contractor. To know the start to the finishes, so it's really good.
Right on. Thanks, Mike. Jeremy, anything to add?
Well, we can echo that. That was the biggest thing for us is superintendent burnout, our field of burnout. We had to try to organize, like things changing, so resetting. We actually had our, Skygate was an example of a project that was really challenging with the schedule. And our superintendent there had to, he asked him. So we see it in Westbrook now, we see it in morale's gone up. So something had to change, and Westbrook's really done well, and our supers out there happy.
Right on. Thanks, Jeremy. Awesome.
There's a book.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Good question. Sorry, I wasn't here last year, so apologies if it's a repeat question, but maybe point 10 on your owner's manual about maybe we'll be in other businesses in the future, and I guess I'm just kind of curious about the thinking there and like what the criteria would be for that. Is it ancillary to the current real estate business, or is it Buffett would be anything that's a well-known business?
Yeah, great question. So the question was, when we think about Highstreet potentially being in other businesses in the future, have we put any parameters around that in terms of how we think about it? I'll take a crack at it first, and then I'll turn it over to you, Don. I think it came up because we were considering a 50-50 ownership in a hardware store on the island. And so it was definitely ancillary. And we thought the opportunity to learn more about the supply side and learn more about buying was a natural fit for us, and we would have benefited in many ways. Unfortunately, we couldn't get in there. There was a private equity company already involved, and we couldn't quite manage it. We still have our eyes on that, but we're not. We're going to be very opportunistic about it. We're not saying we must go out and buy a hardware store. If one becomes available and it's a fit, we'll do it, but we're not aggressively looking. Beyond that, I mean, I have ideas all the time. Some of them good, some of them bad. Many of them get thrown out right away. Some of them stick for a while. And so we may get into other things, mostly ancillary, but nothing on the near-term horizon. Don?
Yeah, I think we always want to keep in mind that we're managing shareholders' money. And whatever we get into, especially as we get larger and larger, make sure the diligence is done so that stuff we may enter into is well understood. So shareholders don't go, what the heck are you doing? I agreed with the opportunity, and the board agreed with the opportunity for the hardware store, but every time you add a complexity to your business, it has an impact. And we want to make sure that we understand that wholeheartedly before we launch into anything. So Scott's we're all full of good ideas, but sometimes we need to vet them and just make sure that they're going to make sense for the people of the company and the shareholders going forward. So I can't put it any better than that. The board will be very diligent in asking lots of questions, and we'll push back and make sure that the board is a very large shareholder in the operation, so we want to make sure that we do the right thing. The hardware store was a great idea. On the surface, the people were right, the culture was right. It was a privately owned business. The numbers made sense, but we're launching into another business that we'd have to partner with people that knew that business. So I mean, there's pluses and minuses, and we could debate it all day. But suffice to say, we're going to put a lot of diligence into anything we look at. It's got to make sense. Was that a good answer?
Yeah, it's a good answer. I guess the hardware was an interesting kind of case. It's like the idea is that you have an existing management team who would just keep, and that was. Yeah, they're staying on board. So.
Oh yeah, that was probably top of the list for who's going to run this. And those guys were still young and lots of energy and lots of knowledge of that business.
Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead. Dean?
Paul has a question too.
With respect to Phoenix, is the plan, the corporate structure of it all, is the plan for Highstreet to create a U.S. entity and Highstreet will construct projects? Or is the plan for Jason's team to create a U.S. construction company and Highstreet is essentially an investor within that construction company?
Yeah, they'll have the construction company, and the construction company will be independent of Highstreet. We'll act as the developer, and so our money will flow from Owners LP into a U.S. entity that will, much like we have, you saw on that slide earlier with the GP-LP structure per project, we'll have a similar situation down there, except it's a corp, as it's currently designed, a corp for each project. And they'll do construction management for that corp, and then we'll figure out arm wrestle over the ownership as well.
We engaged our accountants and lawyers heavily to.
Yeah. And are they, and maybe you said this, are they planning to be condos or apartments?
Yes.
Either. Yeah. Whatever works. Yeah.
Good question, Paul.
So Paul's moving. Yep. Paul, go ahead.
You mentioned Parksville and the challenge with construction costs relative to the revenue that you booked on that. We've had similar experiences. You sell condos at a certain price, construction costs keep rising. What's your thoughts in terms of trying to, you've done a great job with Elevate, by the way, and this whole construction change, you, Christine, and the team. But what's your plan relative to trying to close that gap between the revenue side, selling early, and the construction side when you're done?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Paul. It's almost like a setup question. We didn't talk about that before. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, we've done it. We've pre-sold so many times now, and we did it on the island when it looked like the market was going to die, and we thought we better lock in now and get a whole bunch of sales. And we made that decision thinking that we were trying to beat the market, and we did that in Nanaimo, and then we did that in Langford, or reverse order, actually, I think. And yeah, we missed out on a huge opportunity. And if we held longer and waited till we were closer to completion, we would have done much better. And I mean, we're not complaining, we're doing fine. And we provided great value, but it also puts you in a situation like we have in Parksville where, we're locking in prices before we had fixed costs, and so as a result, you may end up, shrinking that margin. So our internal way of looking at it is we're going to sell as late as possible now, and so we're large enough that financing isn't as big of a problem. It used to be that to do any individual limited partnership, you'd have to get a whole bunch of pre-sales, and you'd have to do that to get the bank financing. Well, we don't have to do that anymore, and we're large enough, and in some cases, we can carry the whole project. I mean, we don't have to worry about the bank financing. It just means maybe lower bank financing to get the project underway. And then the internal decision point will be around 4 to 5 months out from completion, and evaluate the market at that time. And if it looks like a great condo market, we'll go condo. And if it isn't, we'll do rental. And we can do either, and either will be fine, and we'll carry on. And so push that decision out as late as possible, basically is how we're moving forward. And that's what we're doing at Ascent. So you won't see us try to come to market. We'll wait and see what happens. And we're big enough that we can certainly take the risk on any given project that it doesn't end up being a condo, and even if we hold it as a rental until the condo market comes back, we could do that. So, but it's history has indicated that it's been worth taking the risk. Langford being a good example, where we had 2 buyers on the last building walk away, and we're reselling them at Augustine, how much are we reselling them over the price that we initially sold them for?
80 more, I think.
Yeah, 80,000 more. So, if you did 80,000 on 225 doors, we don't want to talk about that, but that's okay. Buyers got a great deal.
You never go broke making money, and it doesn't hurt to take risks.
Yeah, I mean, we're not.
The prices could have gone the other way.
For sure, we're not. I wouldn't be upset about what we've done in Langford. We've done really well, even with the problems we had there. It's been great, and we provided great value to customers, and we still made a really good return. So, hey, who's going to argue with that? We had a question over here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just curious to hear more about kind of Phoenix. I mean, you guys have developed, your products have evolved in Western Canada mostly to be a huge success, obviously. In terms of the Phoenix market, it's a much different situation. I mean, you're still going for the same market approach, I guess, but do you think your product is going to change quite differently in that market? Or?
Yeah, maybe. We certainly we've been having this discussion around swimming pools, and whether or not that's part of the program. Do people really want swimming pools in Phoenix? Does everybody want swimming pools? Do we have to have a swimming pool? So we need to do more market research. This is really early days. I mean, we're just starting to make offers on land. So we'll have time to figure out the design. We'll have time to do more market research. We'll have time to figure all that out. What we are excited about is we were down there in March, and we kind of extended a family trip, and my wife and sons were there and looking around, and I got to spend time with some real estate brokers and go look around and look at all the buildings and some new buildings, and yeah, I'm excited to bring the Highstreet brand of product and service to Phoenix. Like, I think it's a great opportunity. If we're pushing the envelope on, you think about carbon-free homes, quality inside, wonderful customer service, and you see what's going on down there, I think there's a great alignment in. So when you think about net zero ready, the problem we have in Canada is your heating demand is completely opposite to our solar production. So in the summer, we can overproduce solar, and in the winter, we obviously can't produce nearly enough to cover the heating demand. In Phoenix, it lines up perfectly. Your biggest demand for energy is in the hottest, longest days when you're going to get the most solar production. Not that solar is the only way to get clean power, but it's kind of it's the direction we've gone. If we want to do something differently, we'd have to look at geothermal or something else. But solar's pretty easy, and the math is pretty easy. So we like it for that reason. So going into Phoenix, we see this great opportunity to bring this perspective to the market that they're not seeing. Like, people are not using solar on buildings down there, and you're going, man, this is a perfect place. Power is 15 cents a kilowatt. So the power is more expensive. The production is more, so it'll pay off faster. And you line up production with demand. I mean, I'm looking at this is a no-brainer. So we can do carbon. I think we should be able to do carbon-free homes, More underground parkades than you see down there. Everybody loves to just have a whole ton of surface parking. The density is really low generally, unless you're in a more urban setting. Yeah, I just think we have a huge opportunity in Phoenix. Jeff, unless there's anybody I missed on this side of the room.
You know, on the solar part,
Sorry, Don.
I go down there and visit Keith all the time. There isn't that much solar in Phoenix, which you always wonder about. From a purely financial standpoint, if you bought a solar system, sorry, Rob, if you bought a solar system and put it on the roof of your house, the payback's not great. At 15 cents a kilowatt and 410 watt panels, it's getting better and better. But when you apply the decrease in your utility cost to the value of the building, to the cap rate, it's like 20 times. So on a 5 cap. So I don't think that they get that down there, because if these buildings are being built by big funds, they don't really think about solar. They just, I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like that. So it's just another city.
So if we keep apartments down there and we hold them, is Pino going to move down there and instead of how do you manage?
He's going to send his cousin Pino Mancuso.
Yeah. I think Pino would like to move down there, but no, he'll stay at head office in Kelowna unless he wants to go be a community leader down there or something. I think that would be a different choice. He'd have to talk to Antoinette again. But no, to me, we can manage down there. It's easier to get to Phoenix than it is to get to Dawson Creek and Grand Prairie. So yeah, we can do Phoenix. That won't be a concern. Anything to add, Don?
No, I don't think we can always. We don't have to manage it. We could always hire, farm it out to a good manager. I think having. We're going to have 6 employees to get the right tax efficiency, correct, Mr. Johnson? And but we haven't had those discussions yet. Do we want to be in the business of managing apartments in Phoenix, or should we just farm it out to a really good operator?
Good luck finding a really good operator. Anyway, yeah. That's awesome.
Until we do it ourselves.
Yeah, Sue.
Potential around taxes now being US-based.
Yeah, the structure takes all that into account. You'll see taxes will flow, income will flow to the Canadian entity and will come out much in the way you'd see income flow out of any project in Canada. So, yeah, it's not. Ultimately, it flows up and then gets allocated out, right, Derek? I'm on that.
Well, actually, that was a really good question.
Some taxes down there first, yeah, sure.
The way that the structure is planned at this point is that there will be effectively a blocker corporation which would absorb the taxes. So it wouldn't be a scenario like a typical partnership income earning business income. That corporation will be subject to tax. So.
Sorry, Ed. So taxed at the U.S. side.
Distribution of dividends up the chain that would attract tax,
right? Which
would be normally a cash thing. So it's not that you would be taxed on income that you didn't receive cash for. Does that make sense?
So the flow, yeah, sorry, I had that wrong. But when it flows to Canada, it flows out post-tax. Yeah, so once it hits Canada, it flows out post-tax, so then you won't see it on your T5013 in Canada.
Correct.
Okay.
We still have a ways to go on Phoenix. We don't have any land in play yet.
I generally don't let the tax wag the dog of the business, so that's maybe why I didn't have the right answer on that. But yeah.
Sorry, if I could
Derek,
make
go ahead.
just one minor point that's probably relevant to everyone. In the context of operating in the U.S., a lot of people might be concerned, will I have U.S. tax filings? The answer to that would be no.
Thank you.
Was that your question? We should have just asked Derek. Thanks, Derek. Derek is, by the way, our accountant for Highstreet. Derek and Curtis and Jessica, thank you to all of you. You do a great job. And Nancy, because you're special.
Okay. Next question. What time we got? We got 15 more minutes. I'm sure you've got some good ones. Dan, there you go. I was counting on you.
Putting
I'll go for it.
meetings aside, what markets in Canada are you most interested in over the next 2 to 4 or 5 years?
Right now, Calgary. We want to replace our investment in Calgary as we sell the condos that are left there. We have, how many condos do we have left in? Sorry, 88. So we have 88 condos left. The loan will be paid off in July. We'll have somewhere in the order of 18 or 19 million coming out of that community to reinvest. So we'll take some of that and reinvest back in Calgary with the expectation that we'll hold property long-term in Calgary. And we'll do it with the new, kind of the upgraded Highstreet building compared to what we built a number of years ago. Beyond that, I don't know, we're always looking at any half-decent market in Western Canada, which tends to be the secondary markets that are, we also have a geographic focus, I should say that. We're not going to go anywhere. Like Cranbrook may well be a very good opportunity. Revelstoke may well be a very good opportunity. We're not going to go there because everything we're doing to improve the construction side and improve the delivery and improve the experience for our people can't be done by going to remote cities that we don't have a base of operations in. So we are purposefully focused on areas of concentration that allow our construction teams to stay and live in that area and work Monday to Friday and be home for dinner, coach soccer on the weekends, all that kind of stuff. So that has limited our focus to, right now we have basically 4 teams. We've got 2 in the central Okanagan and 2 on the island, 1 South Island, 1's Mid Island. So as a result, we're focused on land in the vicinity of this Mid Island area that I would define as kind of Campbell River to Parksville. And we have a lot of land in Comox coming up. In the South Island, it's Metro Victoria. We've got a couple more parcels in Langford. We've got a parcel in Sydney that we're going through permitting on. And that would keep the overlapping team busy there. And then here we have a lot of runway still on the West Side Road site and the one in Upper Mission. And we're always looking for more land in the vicinity of these sites that will allow those teams to overlap and continue. So that's that does restrict our focus. It means when we set up in Calgary, we'd want to continue to have overlapping projects there. So if we're going to go in, we want to go in and set up and create that consistency for people so that they can plan and build a life there around what we're doing. Michael.
We're talking about going back in the Alberta market again, which is always volatile with the oil and gas industry. What are your guys' perspectives on when we actually crack down on climate change in our country and make the oil and gas industry less of a factor in Alberta?
Yeah, I would, it's a good question. I would say that oil will be part of Canada's future for a long time. And I wouldn't, I think that there's better uses for oil, and we'll need it long term for pharmaceuticals and all kinds of things that people, life would not be the same without oil and gas. And I think it's always, from a Highstreet perspective, I don't hate oil and gas. Of course, we're building carbon-free homes. I think that's just because it makes sense. Energy efficiency makes sense. Why burn it to heat a place when you don't need to? But at the same time, I don't think that a full crackdown on oil and gas in Canada, if you did that here, you have to work on the demand side, not the supply side, in my mind. Like, it's all about doing something in Canada that Russia is not going to do, or Iran is not going to do, or Venezuela is not going to do. It won't make any iota of a difference to global warming. So I don't see that as a solution. I think we should encourage Canadian oil and gas because it's still probably the safest and most ethical oil you can get. Whereas, yeah, I mean, but if we reduce the overall demand through, that could be through government legislation, that could be through moral suasion, that could be through a bunch of different things that happen over time, then that's a better avenue. Reduce the demand for oil and gas instead of us trying to artificially restrict supply in Canada, because it will get supplied. And then we're just, it's this beggar thy neighbor policy of we'll go broke doing it and the rest of the world will make money off of our actions. So I'm not totally in line with saying we're going to shut down, well, not in line at all with shutting down oil and gas in Alberta, but I am in line with reducing our consumption for sure. We have to do that.
Yeah, that was a great response from Scott. I think I totally agree with that. Keep in mind that this project we're going to go look at, there's no gas line into the project. It doesn't burn gas at all, other than if any of the electricity is produced through gas, which it isn't. It's all hydro. So that is truly a carbon-free. And with the extra insulation and all of the LED lighting and so on and heat pumps, we can't do that in Alberta. You can't build yet that I know of. I don't know if you know any different, you guys, that you can't build an apartment building in Alberta without having a gas line into it. It's just a reality because of the temperatures. The heat pumps won't keep up.
We're going to try to figure out a way. Yeah, it's about the same. I think Calgary's a little more than Kelowna, but that's not the only factor. Yeah, but it's not the only factor. I think there's a lot to that. Obviously, the demand load in the winter is a hell of a lot higher, so it does create a problem. But we'll look at ways to not have gas to the buildings in Alberta. We'll try to figure that out. There may, even as much as we could offset. Because the power in Alberta is not clean either, but we could offset with a clean power supplier in Alberta, and there's lots of them growing there now, so we could do something like that.
I think the innovation in Alberta is towards carbon capture is well on its way. It's well down the road, and that's where a lot of the carbon that's producing oil and gas in Alberta, that's where the focus will be. But there's other things like there's a huge amount of gas burned to produce oil from the oil sands. And if you could use nuclear, for example, micronuclear reactors for the energy that's needed to extract the oil. So shutting down the industry in Alberta doesn't make a lot of sense, to Scott's points around the way it's ethically produced, but there's other ways to produce it that will produce much less carbon. The carbon's still going to get burnt around the rest of the world, or used around the rest of the world. Not a lot we can do about that. As time goes on and more people transition to cleaner forms, that will take care of itself. But yeah.
Thanks, Don. Mark, I skipped over here.
You've answered some of my questions. So this is my first time here, so if I'm asking something that's been answered, I apologize. But I have a personal interest in solar. Don and I have talked about it. He has some in his shop. My assumption when I learned you guys were putting solar in was that you don't have enough panels on that building to supply all the power. I think part of what you've answered is that the alternatives in BC, for example, are hydro, so it's clean. Don mentioned, though, that there's an increase in the value of the capital or the property because of the reduction in the utilities costs. Now, is that the same on the condo side as it is on the apartment side if you're going to sell the building, and then separately would be different if you're operating the building? There'd be a different model for each of those, would there be?
Yeah, great question, and you're bang on with your thought process. The question was around if there's a payback calculation on the savings from putting solar on apartment buildings that increases the value of the apartment buildings. What does that look like on the condo side? If I got that right. So yeah, it's pretty, it's easy math on the apartment side. It's fuzzier on the condo side. There's no direct correlation. We're doing it anyway because for one reason, and like I said earlier, we want to push back the decision to sell or keep until later in the build process. On the apartment side, it's relatively easy to say, look, we're going to put, the numbers have changed recently. This is old math. I'm sure it's better now, so I'll take a guess at it. But the cost of solar is coming down, and that impacts the kind of the total return calculation. But it used to be, even 3 years ago, if we put a $100,000 investment in solar, it would increase the value of the building by 160. So, it's simple math. We're going to do that all day long. The cost of solar's come down, so I'd venture a guess that is up to, say, 180 now, somewhere in that range. So that's easy to think about, and we finance 75% of it. So on that 100, maybe we put 25 down, the value's gone up by the 60,000 or the 80,000. So when we go to value it, when we get an appraisal and get takeout financing, or when we sell it, that's how much more it's worth. On the condo side, yeah, your condo fees are lower, right? We cover the common area utilities on an annualized basis. So that's, to your point, yes, that doesn't cover all the electricity in the building. We've stopped short of doing that. We started to go down that road, and then, oh my God, that's a nightmare in terms of billing, and Pino's living it now in Comox. We have an excess of power generation, and actually, no, it wasn't Comox. I think Vernon, we did that. And then we started to bill our own because the net metering was better. Anyway, we've learned a lot through the process. We want to stick to just providing power for the common areas only in Canada. And then, sorry, what was I trying to say? So that really brings down the cost of operating the apartment for the individual renter or buyer. They would see, the buyer sees it in reduced condo fees, but it's kind of hidden, so we have lower condo fees, and so they'd have to justify a higher price that they pay for our lower condo fees, which hopefully people do the math on, but we just sell them on the fact that they can feel good about buying. I mean, Augustine does the sales, he could tell you what he pitches them on, but it's, I know it's all about you're carbon free, it's high quality, we're going to take care of you, whatever else he says. That people have been interested in that. Yeah. I mean, I could not tell you how many people bought because we put solar panels on the building. I have no idea.
But our thinking is, given 2 condos at the same price, they would choose the one that had solar panels, just because it has solar panels.
But interesting thing, in Arizona, as I recall, that's one of the locations where the generation capability may be greater, but I don't think they'll buy excess there, will they?
Yeah, that's probably part of the problem, is the net metering. I've had that thought, yeah.
In Arizona,
Yeah.
they do? Okay, I thought
Okay.
they did not.
I thought that might be the reason why you don't see solar panels all over the buildings, but if they do, that works. I thought if they don't, we'd have to come up with some other method of figuring it out. I mean, but you obviously have some really high demand periods there. I did think of that in terms of, you'd have, get into the design on that and start switching on different sections of panels as the days got longer and the demand was higher on the heat side. And so I gave that a brief moment of thought, but because we haven't bought land there, we just haven't gone into the design side yet. Yeah, go ahead.
Scott, there's been talk in BC of changing municipal approval processes in the interest of affecting affordability of housing and that. What's your thoughts on upsides, downsides, unintended consequences, whatever, for everything?
Sure, great question. So Keith just asked, in BC, there's been a push to change the permitting process provincially to push it down to the municipal level to make permitting faster and hopefully increase housing affordability. Don and I had a call on Wednesday with Lisa Helps, the previous mayor of Victoria, who's working in the Premier's office on a program called BC Builds that is focused on affordable housing. And her mandate is to create more housing for the missing middle, which how they define the missing middle is kind of funny. It's basically anyone making $70,000 a year to $120,000 a year, which I don't know that they're missing housing, but that's who we build for. I mean, this is our target market. So well, that's what we're doing today. That's what we do all day long, and they're trying to find ways to encourage that. And she talked about the idea of pre-zoning land. So basically saying if it's in the official community plan, pre-zone it so you don't have to go through the whole rezoning process and go straight to development permit, building permit, which would certainly help. We had that, it took 3 years in Kelowna. Was it 3 years, Eric? I don't know. You lived it every day. It's about three. 3 years in Kelowna to go through a rezoning and permitting process here on something that was originally just a screw up by staff on the official community plan. So, stroke of a pencil, could have fixed it, but it took forever for various reasons that they kept changing bylaws and we'd get caught up in that. And anyway, there was a bunch of stuff going on. Do I think that the province will do anything meaningful that will change it? I don't know. We're kind of skeptical. It sounds great, and I've argued for that too. I would say if it's in the official community plan, which I think the equivalent in Alberta would be like an area structure plan or the next level. But anyway, the idea that if it says medium density on the official community plan where there's already been a bunch of public consultation, then just label that as if your apartment land is RM4 and your townhome land is RM3 or whatever, then you can get more specific. I say, or if it's one of those that somebody's trying to build in your medium density area, great, go straight to the development permit. And that hasn't been the case so far. So all that does, though, it reduces the cost from a carrying cost perspective, but not much. It reduces it could improve your annual rate of return if you had to buy that land well in advance and sat on it for a long time. But what it really does is improve a supply response to a rapidly rising price environment. So that's been the hindrance in British Columbia largely, is that even if prices go up 20%, it takes 3 years to get anything built to match that demand. So if you can have demand match supply match price increases faster, it will keep that price from escalating so much. So that's what it can help with. Don?
Yeah, I think that was a great question. It's very appropriate given the conversation we had a couple days ago with Lisa Helps. We're running out of time and you're all slipping into an altered state of consciousness. Janelle, do you want to come up and do any housekeeping announcements? I know this, we're going to go on a tour at 12:45. Multiple buses, the button on your thing tells you the color of the bus. We have a solar panel to give away. And we're going to go to this site here on our second. We're actually not going to get out of the bus on the first stop. In the second site, you're going to see that building is built, and I think it's 70% occupancy, and going strong. That building is built. It will get occupancy in the next month or so, and it's 30% rented already. That building is built, but well under construction, so we won't be able to go in that because we don't have enough hard hats. And then this is just dirt, as are those two. We'll see the community building well underway. It's a really cool project.
Okay, let's wrap up on the questions. Jeff, Chris, come and talk to me after. We'll just, any more questions, we'll have to just find Don or I.
Do it on the bus.
Any of the board members, leadership team, ask them on the bus, and and we'll wrap up this section so we can have lunch and try to stay on time today. We love to be on schedule at High Street, as you've heard, so let's try to stay on schedule.
Rob,
we're into our buffer time now.
Our solar, he does all our solar work. He's kindly donated a RV solar panel. Anything more to say about that?
That's a made in Canada panel, 245 watts, mono, a great panel, a Victron automatic 12, 24 volt charge controller, the wire, and a mounting bracket. So
There.
you can go dry camp all you want.
And we got a van back there showing it off.
Off grid. So these are the people with the RV that they want to go off grid. It's perfect. And the winner is Christina Rogers. Hey, Rogers, come on. Hey. There you go. Right on, congrats. And you just have to somehow take that home. So,
strap it to the plane.
Bring your RV out. Yeah. Okay, let's go eat and see you guys on the tour. Thanks.